All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the California Department of Veterans Affairs and the California Transition Assistance Program, we'd like to welcome you to today's hybrid informational workshop. We're broadcasting online today as well as in partnership with Crafton Hills College and their Veterans Resource Center. So we thank you all for those who are in attendance today for today's topic of resume writing and interview techniques. My name is Derek Rose, and I work as a training coordinator for the CalTAP program. We have a lot of information to share with you today, a lot of information regarding, of course, resume writing and interview techniques, but as well as an overview of some of the benefits that are offered here at the state of California for all your veterans benefits in relation to yourself, your family members as well. So we're going to go ahead and push through and get started with today's workshop. So just some general housekeeping items. Since this is a virtual format, we do ask that you keep your microphones and cameras turned off. This just helps eliminate some distractions and save on bandwidth for the rest of the presentation. As far as the agenda goes for today's event, we're going to just kind of start with an overview of Calvet's services and the benefits that are offered. We're going to, share some insight on some of the resources that are available to you. We're also going to be joined by Merlene Steinbeck, who's actually there at Crafton Hills College right now. She's actually in person, but she serves as our Inland Empire Region link. So she's going to speak about all the work that she does within that region to connect veterans to their earned benefits in her area. And then we're also joined by Kate Smith, who is with Work for Warriors. And she's going to share some information today about, resume writing strategies, interview techniques as well. So we're very honored and thankful for Kate's time today and joining us on today's webinar. I should say, if you do have any questions throughout today's workshop, we do encourage you to use that Q&A feature. That's where you can ask your questions to all of the panelists. And my colleague Sean is actually going to be dropping some information into the chat feature. That's just as we're going along, so you can kind of help follow and maybe download some of the resources that we shared today. And then after our presentation, we're going to allow some time for any questions that came into that Q&A, and we can address those out loud for the group. All right, so just kind of a description of kind of Calvet and how Calvet as a state agency fits in to the kind of the delivery of services for VA benefits. So it's kind of like a hierarchy, right? So of course you have the federal VA, who's in charge of all of your health care and your benefits as well. But we fall right under that. And then, we work in partnership with the VA to connect veterans, service members to all of their earned federal benefits, as well as administer some of our state programs here on a state level. And then kind of within that hierarchy, you have the county level, the County Association of Veteran Service Officers. And these are great resources to use if you're beginning to file a claim with the VA. These offices have all of the accreditation to work with you, a free service on your behalf to help you file claims or requests for benefits from the VA. So highly encourage you to find your local county veteran service office if you're a veteran or a family member who's thinking about applying for any type of VA related benefit. Additionally, there are local nonprofit service providers as well. Groups such as DAV or American Legion all provide great free services as well. So that you can also reach out to one of those organizations for support or your questions about VA benefits as well. Just kind of a snapshot, again, the difference kind of between the federal VA and the state's VA. So on the left-hand side is the federal administration, right? And I kind of like to describe it as three different branches of government. You have your Veterans Healthcare Administration, who oversees all of your healthcare needs. If you're going to the VA clinics, if you're getting care for a service-connected disability, all through the healthcare administration. You also have your benefits administration, who's actually paying you for your disability compensation, pensions, your GI Bill, your training programs, programs like VR&E as well are all administered through the Veterans Benefits side. And then additionally, the National Cemetery Administration, who oversees all of the burials, headstones, and VA-related services in relation to burial benefits. Additionally, you have Calvet as a state agency. And of course, we manage all of our own state programs as well. For example, the CalTAP program, of who we are a part of today. We also offer additional programs such as our home loans program and additional benefits as well. And we're going to kind of do a run through of those as we go along. So just kind of wanted to lay the landscape for you as far as kind of how Calvet fits in as a veterans service organization. So, what exactly is CalTAP? What is our program designed to do? Well, just as it says, to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their federal and state benefits. And the way that we've implemented this program is through our Pathways program, and each one of these pathways has key training areas and key learning modules that you can learn from and follow us along. And kind of if your transition, from the military to civilian life is pointing you into any one of these areas, we have programs and learning modules designed for you they're really great, and they share a lot of great information as well. So this is kind of a snapshot of the veteran's journey map, as we like to call it. So anything from your initial service, anything from signing up to join the military, just some of the key things to take note of and prepare for when you're about to transition out. So anything from your period of service all the way through separation, getting a job or perhaps starting your own business and finding housing, and all the way up until long-term financial planning and end-of-life care. So really the idea behind this is that CalTAP is designed to fit into any one of these key areas along the way, and just know that we're here to support you going forward. All right, I'd also like to share the Veterans Resource Book with you. This is just a really great tool to keep handy. If you don't have a hard copy version, you can always reach out to us, and my colleague Sean is going to be dropping in a link for a PDF version that you can download. This just has, a culmination of all things related to veterans benefits from the federal side to the state side to where you can go and find all of your local offices and information. So again, really a great tool to keep handy, and I encourage you to download this information. You can also find it on our website with some additional links as well, how to find your local providers, download our Veterans Resource Book, and actually find our page and our training programs on that CalTAP icon right there in the middle. So I mentioned kind of an overview of exactly what the benefits are here in the state of California. So I just kind of wanted to get started before we move forward and just kind of share this with you. Maybe perhaps you're already utilizing some of these benefits, or perhaps you're learning for the first time. Either way, we're excited to share this information to you and hope you can help us get the word out as well. So some of the programs that we offer, one of our kind of go-to programs is our college tuition fee waiver program. This waives the tuition for veterans' dependents at state schools here in California. As long as that veteran has a service-connected disability rating with the VA and that child meets the basic eligibility criteria, that child can go to any junior college, a CSU, or a UC in the state of California tuition free. It's a great program, and I encourage you to assess your eligibility going forward if you're thinking about applying for disability compensation or you have dependents who are going to school. We work with DMV on a few different programs. One is that veterans designation on your driver's license. This allows you to just have the word veteran printed on your driver's license so you can show it out in town and get all those great benefits and veterans discounts, and you don't have to carry around your DD 214 everywhere you go. The motor vehicle registration fee waiver, if you have a disability rating that's rated at 100% permanent and a total rating, and you have a mobility impairment, you can request a fee waiver for one vehicle for your registration fees. So again, it does require a permanent disability rating, but if you have that eligibility, encourage you to apply through the DMV. If you're into recreational activities here in California, hunting and fishing licenses, if you have a 50% rating with the VA, you can apply for reduced fees or a no-cost state parks pass. So another great benefit that's offered as well. Property tax exemptions. Again, this is for a 100% total rated, but this exempts you from a certain amount on your property taxes if you own your home. You would just apply for this benefit through your county assessor's office to where it is that you pay your property taxes, and they will apply your exemption up onto your home. CalVet Home Loans. This is another great program if you're interested in home ownership. This program uses your VA home loan eligibility, and CalVet actually serves as the underwriter and the processor directly of your loan. To where you would be paying your mortgage directly to the state of California. This is a really great program to use, but the goal of CalVet Home Loans is to always make sure that they're working for you and advocating for you on your behalf and helping you find housing regardless of your situation. So if you're interested in home ownership or want to get some more information, we can share that in the chat, but just also something to consider for your information. We also have a really outstanding women's veterans and a minorities veterans outreach division at headquarters. This group does a lot of great work for some of our underserved veterans here in the state of California for outreach, advocacy, mentorship programs as well. So if you're interested in learning more, you can always reach out to them directly and they'd be happy to assist you. And lastly, CalVet operates 3 state veteran cemeteries here in California. You may be familiar with the National VA Cemetery Administration, but CalVet as a state agency operates 3 of those exclusively. All right, so that was kind of a general overview of some of the benefits and services that are offered. If you would like to connect with us and maybe learn a little bit more or get some more information, you can always reach out to our email address right here, which is caltap@calvet. You can register on our website for a profile for yourself that allows you to stay up to date. You can always follow us along on our social media channels. You can reach out and you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter announcements that provide information for all of our statewide trainings, virtual, in person as well. We do encourage you to attend more webinars in the future on a whole array of topics that we host. And we're also going to be sending out a post-event survey. We're going to drop it in the chat and share a QR code with you as well. We do really value your feedback on that survey. It really goes a long way in helping us develop some of these trainings and programs. So we do encourage your participation in that as well. So thanks again. That is my name and direct contact information. Just send me an email and I'd be more than happy to get back to you at any time to talk to you about anything that we're covering today. All right, that does it for me. So thank you for listening. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Merlene Steinbeck, who's joining us at Crafton Hills College, and she's going to speak about her role as the Inland Empire Link. So with that, Merlene, it is all yours.
Thank you so much, Derek. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Sounds great.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Merlene Steinbeck. I am the local interagency network coordinator for CalVet for the Inland Empire. Next slide. They call us the links. We like to make the joke that we link it up because whatever you guys need, we have a contact for that. We are the go-to people. We're a tremendous resource for the veterans. As you can see, the big red area is the area that I travel through. And I go to community colleges, bases, installations, anywhere that I feel I can find a bunch of veterans to talk to you guys about the good news about CalVet. I will definitely do that. I always like to point out Orange County because it looks a little small on the map, but that said, it gives a good example that there's just as many veterans in Orange County as in my entire district, right? So the needs of Orange County is going to be completely different than the needs of my district. For example, if you are in Blythe or 29 Palms, you're going to have a much harder time getting an Uber, right? Maybe in Bishop or Inyo or Mammoth Lakes, you're going to have a hard time with transportation. Transportation and housing are some of the most challenging situations in my district. One of the things that we have in my district that kind of help that is shuttles for soldiers. So the fact that I know that is something that can help many of the veterans who have those kinds of challenges. Whereas in Orange County, they may have like family collaboratives and various different things. Like in my area, you're going to find a lot of veterans of disabilities, older veterans, that kind of thing. So the demographic changes, right? And in Orange County, you have like young families who are working, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at different needs for different areas. And each of the links are very good at knowing what resources are available to try to combat some of those issues we're experiencing. Next slide, please. As you can see, we provide outreach to veteran members and their families. I'd like to say this is really important to know, the outreach, because when you walk into a room with, like, let's say 100 people, when you leave this service, suddenly, I mean, obviously not here at the VRC or online, you're engaging with other veterans, but in a general setting, you're going to have 100 people to one veteran that served in all the branches, right? So that kind of puts them excluded a little bit. We make referrals and we work directly with the service provider. So we try to engage you. We try to acclimate you into your communities. Also, if you have an emergency, we also assist with local emergencies. We provide leadership and advocacy to much of the local communities. Tomorrow, for example, I am meeting with the directors for the LARO, which is the Regional Office for Benefits. I'm meeting with the director for San Diego Benefits, the Cemetery of Riverside director, and the director of VA Loma Linda, as well as many other community partners who engage daily with veterans. Next slide. And so they listen to me. They really do understand some of those things. We also have contacts that do employment and training at the EDD departments. I have people I could just call and they go, oh, I know Murphy. You know, I've worked with them for many years at the American Job Centers. And they do training, which is great. I can't tell you, their training is amazing. I've taken some of the training just to see what they do and tell other veterans about it, which is great. The county veteran service officers, I was talking with Assistant Director of San Bernardino County just moments ago before we started this webinar. And I also know people that work at Calvet, which is kind of a surprise, right? Because I work here, I'm just kidding. But anyway, healthcare, VA medical centers and clinics, I know contacts at many of these different clinics, the medical centers and the vet centers as well. Next slide. This is my contact information and my cell phone number, my work cell, and I do respond. So if you have any questions, go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and mute now, and turn this back over to my coworker, Derek Rose. Thank you so much for letting me speak about what I do.
Thank you so much, Marlene. We know that sometimes it can kind of be hard doing the hybrid side and the virtual and in person. I think we lost sound just for a brief moment there, but I just wanted to share with the group that this webinar is going to be recorded, and we can also share a copy of this slide deck in the chat. So you can get everybody's contact information as we're going along. Perhaps if you did miss something, if something cut out, you can always reach out to somebody directly and we can answer your questions as needed. So thank you all again for your patience with that. Thank you again, Marlene. Hope you have a great rest of your day. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Caitlin Smith, who is a staffing consultant with Work for Warriors. We're thankful and honored to have her here today. So again, Caitlin, thank you, and the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Derek. Happy to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. So as Derek said, I'm with Work for Warriors. Little bit of background. We are a not-for-profit that falls under the California Military Department that helps veterans, transitioning service members, and their immediate family members with employment. So we are not necessarily a staffing agency. We can't directly get you a job, but we do kind of help you with the process of finding employment. Whatever your situation may be, we don't limit the types of roles that we help you find. And part of that is helping you on the back end with resumes. So I want to preface my slideshow and everything that I talk about today by saying that resumes are not one size fits all. Everybody's background is different. The way that they're going to lay out their information is different. A lot of these things that I will be going over today will be more of just rules of thumbs, kind of just basics to use as a guideline, but everybody's a little bit different. Everybody should get my contact information after this today. So just know that I can help each person individually with their needs, with their resumes. So that's something that you can always lean on me for. And I don't stop with just this PowerPoint as far as help. Next slide, please. So all resumes should include at least these 3 sections. It's really more 4 sections because typically I do advise that your experience and education be separate. But contact information is super vital. You want to make sure that the employers can reach you. Your professional summary will go a little bit deeper into that, but that's a great eye catcher for the top. And then of course your experience and education so that employers can actually see what you've done. Next slide, please. So resumes are concise. This is a very clear slide here. You, yes, are going to only include the skills and qualifications that are related to the position you want. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult if you're applying for something that maybe is a different skill set than you're used to. Maybe you're in an entry-level position or you're looking for an entry-level position. It can definitely vary. But you always want to try to cross-reference with the job description that you're actually applying for, just because these days, when you apply online, your application goes through what's called an applicant tracking system, which scans your resume for very specific keywords. And those keywords are based off of that job description. So if you are missing any of those things those requirements are calling for, that computer system could reject you immediately, and your resume may never make it to a human being. Next slide, please. Contact information. So name, phone number, email, and then your address. Don't put your full street address, not necessary, just your city, state. And then I generally recommend your zip code, just because depending on the city you live in, it can be pretty big. And it gives just a little bit better idea for the employer what general area you're in. But we do recommend avoiding that full street address just for safety purposes. Depending on where you're putting your resume out there on LinkedIn, Indeed, any of those online platforms, you're really kind of just handing your information out to everybody. So next slide, please. And then professional summary. So as I was saying before, this would be at the top of your resume. So just underneath your name and contact information. This is really important because that little box you see at the corner here, on average, recruiters spend about 6 seconds reviewing your resume. So you do want to think of this as your sales pitch. Speaking as a previous recruiter, I know exactly what it's like to be looking at hundreds and hundreds of resumes a day and needing that eye catcher. Next slide, please. So your professional summary should generally be about 3 to 5 sentences long. And you can do it in bullet points if you want to. I've always found that the paragraphs tend to look a little nicer, be a little bit more concise and tie together a little better. Excuse me. It should be talking about your top skills and experiences. You're not necessarily giving specific details in this summary to the specific jobs that you've held. It's again going to be more of an overview, but you do want to think about both hard and soft skills when you're putting that in there. And then working with our veterans and transitioning service members, I typically recommend, if you do have a security clearance, just add active security clearance to the end of your summary, and obviously level. So if it's a top secret, you want to put top secret. If it's secret, just secret is fine. And then yes, this is a great place for you to tailor towards a specific job opening. Again, just looking for those keywords. If there's skills that are listed as requirements or even in the job responsibilities of that job you're applying for, try to tie those into there. Next slide, please. So here's a great example if everybody wants to take a second to kind of read through that. But you can see that we're kind of talking about both hard and soft skills. You know, they're looking at communicating with vendors and suppliers, coordinating business operations, maintaining documents and files, and then customer satisfaction. So in that second sentence, you'll see that it says strong attention to detail and accuracy. So strong attention to detail is going to be more of that soft skill, as where coordinating business operations and maintaining documents and files are going to be a little bit harder skills. They're a little bit more physical skills that you actually do and learn from a physical job rather than just like communicating with somebody or paying close attention to something. Those are types of things that come from more of your personality rather than your work ethic, if that makes sense. Next slide, please. And on to the experience section. It'll be work history, volunteer work. Thank you. Some of these slides are a little vague, so I appreciate your help there. So yes, be descriptive, use bullet points for sure. That is my number one thing that I always recommend. I advise against is using paragraphs for your experience. Again, when a recruiter's looking at your resume for 6 seconds, they want to see those words. They want to see that information stand out. They want it to stick out. They want to be able to skim it quickly, but still find that information that they're looking for. So bullet points are good. I do recommend anywhere from about 3 to 7 bullet points per position. Now, per position, when I say that, I mean that you're going to go back about 7 to 10 years for each position that's listed, or for all your positions listed. Now, if you have a position that you held that was over 10 years ago, but maybe it's really relevant to the job, you could absolutely add it in. That's not an issue. But generally, we're going to be looking at the last 7 to 10 years, each position having about 3 to 7 bullet points per position. You include personal stats, percentages, numbers, action verbs. Those are all things you want to include. It's going to vary the way that you write each bullet point. They're never going to be exactly the same, but we do generally recommend starting each bullet point with an action verb that speaks to an action that you carried out, letting each bullet point be a full sentence that explains not just what you did, but how you did it and what accomplishments you had from those actions. So overall, each bullet point should be an impact statement rather than a list of responsibilities. When it's written as a list of responsibilities, it really does read as a job description itself. And again, this is a self-marketing tool for you to that employer. So you really want to talk about your individual impacts and not just what the responsibilities of your job were. Next slide, please. So I talked about a lot of this already. I'm a little ahead of myself on this. I do this every day, so it's just very back of my mind information. So using action words, responsible, duties include. I don't really actually, sorry, brain just gave out here. You want to use action words that aren't passive statements, such as responsible for or duties include. So you're going to talk about, if you managed a team, if the job description says that you're going to be managing a team of 12 people, you want to get that keyword of managed in there as that action verb. And then you might give those actual details. So just like this example at the bottom, developed and executed numerous sensitive and realistic training courses for nearly 1,500 personnel annually, rated as the #1 instructor over 20 peers on the last 3 performance reviews. Next slide, please. And then education. So a couple of things with this section. You definitely want to have your most recent degree first. That's going to be the same thing actually with your experience section. So entire resume, you want to make sure you're going in chronological order backwards. So most recent and current at the top, working your way backwards as you work down the page. You're going to include the name of the school, the location of the school, graduation date or projected date, as well as the field of study. And then you can list your major, your GPA, but we only recommend it if it is above a 3.5. I have worked with a lot of different people with a lot of different educational backgrounds. So if you've started a bachelor's program and maybe you're not actively in school right now and you don't really know if you're going to go back, my recommendation is always to still put the dates that you did attend, but you can put the amount of credits that you have completed rather than just leaving it blank, because you don't necessarily want it to give the assumption that you have completed a bachelor's program if you have not yet. And then if you don't have an associate's or a bachelor's, make sure you list your high school on there, just because your high school diploma will typically still be a requirement for a lot of positions out there. Next slide, please. And then Here's some of our top resume mistakes. As you can see, we've got that example on the right. I really like this example because I think it kind of speaks to most of the issues that we do see. One, really bright colors. We typically just recommend white background, black font, keeping it very simple for a couple reasons. One, it's a little bit all over the place when you've got a lot of colors and different fonts going on. But then when you try to push one of those types of resumes with the different colors and the different text boxes and the columns, all of those formats and fonts will mess with that computer system that I was talking about earlier. And sometimes I've seen people with these boxes and these columns and these crazy fonts, and I've seen people be rejected for jobs with no requirements simply because when the resume goes through the system, nothing gets scanned. So the computer recognizes it as a blank piece of paper. So that's really important to kind of pay attention to. I don't recommend ever including a photo of yourself on your resume. It's just it's not considered professional. Not using action verbs. We talked about that already. Grammar and spelling errors. You wouldn't believe how often I see this. All of these online resources we use to type up our resumes offer us grammatical and spelling check. Please use it. Please make sure that before you turn things in, you actually go through and look for any of those underlined red marks, underlined blue marks, because technology makes that part of this so easy. And I've seen some very, very bizarre spelling errors in the past. So something super important. And then abbreviations. This is especially important, I think, for our military members. We see a lot of people struggle with translating that military experience into civilian jargon. And one of those is that we're using abbreviations, we're using acronyms. Make sure that you are really putting things out there in their full words and terms. And then too long. Length is really important. Obviously, if we were talking about a federal resume, you're going to be looking at a lot longer of a document, as we're with a professional resume. There's a lot of mixed information out there on it being, 2 pages is okay. 1 page is the max. I generally say that 1 to 3 pages is okay. But again, that depends on your experience. If you have a bit lengthier of a background, you might be a little closer to that 3 pages. I would say 2, 1.5 to 2 is usually about the sweet spot. If you can get it on 1, that's great, but it's not something that I usually tell people to overthink. Just make sure you're not going past that point. Next slide, please. And we talked about action verbs already. Next slide, please. Okay, so we talked about avoiding vague terms. So again, detail-oriented, hard worker, definitely make sure that you're using those action verbs. And then citing instances where your skills benefited your team or employer. So again, accomplishments, really providing specific examples of your impact. Contact information, we talked about that. Just make sure it's at the top of your resume. Bullet points for better readability. Again, as a recruiter, taking 6 seconds to look at it. And then those templates. And in terms of templates and resources, I have so many different things that I can send anybody that I work with. So if you would like any of those templates and you need any of these tools, I am absolutely happy to send them to you and provide you that guidance. Next slide, please. And then we'll go into a cover letter a little bit. These are pretty basic. So it should be formatted like a business letter and include headers with the date, contact information, a greeting. You want to give 3 paragraphs and then the letter ending with the signature. Next slide, please. This should be 1 page in length. I would not go further than that. You want to keep it very simple. Those fonts, those sizes are totally fine. Left aligned with single spacing 1-inch margins is fine as well. Again, this is something else that I have templates for that I'm absolutely happy to send over. There's also tons on Google that I generally recommend using. The format of a cover letter is fairly simple. So there's a lot of resources out there for that. Next slide, please. So here's just a good example of one, header and contact information at the top. So you can make sure that you put all of that in. This is kind of the same thing with the contact information on your resume. You don't necessarily have to put your full street address if you don't feel comfortable doing so. It's not like you're mailing this. This is still going over technology. But as far as the company's address, I would definitely still put all of that in. Your cover letter is going to be a little bit different than your resume. One thing I didn't mention about the resume is you want to avoid using first person terms such as I, my, me. In your cover letter, you are going to be talking in first person. This is definitely going to be a little bit more personalized. So you'll talk about the job, where you saw it, why it caught your interest. You'll give an overview of your background and why that's relevant to the position. And then you'll give some specific situations that display your skills and qualifications. And then again, signing off at the bottom. Good example, when I came into work for Warriors, I did write a pretty extensive cover letter for this job. I am a Navy spouse and my dad is also a veteran. So this demographic, this world, this community means so much to me. And I was able to not only relate my recruiting background and my staffing background to this job, but also that personal piece. So those are things that you'll kind of think about when doing a cover letter. It may not always tie directly into that personal side, but I just wanted to give that example because I think it's such a good one. And then next slide. Okay, that is it. Derek, that's actually not my correct email on there. I don't know why it has my full name. It's actually going to be just kate.smith@workforwarriors.org. I can type that in the chat if that's okay, to make sure that everybody gets my information, but anybody on the call today is more than welcome to reach out to me with any questions. I am in the San Diego area, so I don't know if anybody is local to me being able to meet with them in person, but that's why we have great resources like Teams, Zoom, all that fun stuff. So anybody's welcome to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kay. Sorry about the email situation there. We'll make sure that everybody gets the correct email for you going forward. Thanks again.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Derek.
Yes. All right. So while we're kind of clearing up any additional information, I just wanted to share with you everybody's contact information again. If anybody else would like to drop in their email address or a better contact information, you can feel free to do that in the chat as well. But you can always just take a snapshot of this information here, names and email addresses, and we are all more than happy to work with you in the future or go over anything that you may have questions on from today. Additionally, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Sean, who has been overseeing the Q&A. Sean, I haven't seen too much come in through the Q&A. Do we have any questions for the group that we should address?
Thank you, Derek. No, actually, I haven't seen any questions roll through the Q&A either. Yourself and Mrs. Smith have done an excellent job presenting. Sure. We haven't had any questions so far.
I also just wanted to take a moment. I would also like to give an opportunity for Marlene and maybe some of the students there at Crafton Hills who are attending in person. If there's any questions from the group in person, Marlene, is there anything that we can go over or provide some more information on while we're here? If not, that's fine.
They would like to know if Calvet offices look at the resume.
Calvet offices look at the resume. So for specific job postings through Calvet, some do ask for a resume. I would say most jobs through the state, specifically at a manager level, a resume is required. I'm not exactly sure what the state uses for a resume screening tool. Perhaps Kate would have some more information on how the state is actually going about that, but I haven't been made aware of any resume screening tools at the state. But if the job posting itself is asking for a resume, that is going to be one of the required documents to submit with the package. So just making sure that you're taking all the information that Kate provided, and polishing up your resume to make sure if it's asked for a state application. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, if there isn't anything else, I just wanted to share with you some additional workshops that we have coming on. We are actually hosting a webinar tomorrow and then a few different ones in the month of April. So we do encourage you to reach out and connect with us so that we can include you in our outreach so that you can sign up for these additional workshops as well. I also wanted to give one last plug for our survey from today. We can also drop it in the chat for you to take as well. It should also pop up in your browser if you're tuning in online. But if you have a brief moment and you're in person or on your desktop, perhaps just pull out your smartphone and just take a quick snapshot of that QR code. Just about 3 or 4 basic questions. We really do value your feedback throughout this survey. I do not see any additional questions that have come into the Q&A or from Merlene in person. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude. This is our department's contact information. Just wanted to thank you all again today. Thank you, Merlene, for your assistance in person. Thank you to the VRC there at Crafton Hills College. We always look forward to working with you. Thank you again to Kate with Work for Warriors for your information. And thanks to Sean and the rest of our attendees today. Thank you all for your service, and we hope to see you again down the road. All the best. Have a great day.